I walked through the door expecting the usual routine. Maybe dinner warming on the stove, maybe her asking about my day, maybe just a normal Tuesday evening at home. Instead, my wife was sitting at our kitchen table with this weird formal posture, like she was about to deliver a presentation. "We need to talk about our relationship," she announced before I could even set my keys down. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat across from her. "Okay, what's going on?" She had this look on her face like she'd been rehearsing this speech. "I've been thinking about how we can make our marriage more structured, more mature." Structured? I took a sip of my beer. What does that even mean? Well, I think we need to be more organized about intimacy. Plan it out better. I was thinking once a week would be appropriate. Every Saturday evening. I almost choked on my drink. You want to schedule our sex life? Don't make it sound crude. I'm talking about being intentional about our physical relationship. Couples need boundaries and structure to maintain long-term satisfaction. She was talking like she was reading from some relationship manual. This wasn't how my wife normally spoke to me. "So let me get this straight," I said, setting my beer down carefully. "You want to limit us to once a week? Like some kind of ration?" It's not a ration. It's about quality over quantity. When things are too available, people don't appreciate them. That phrase hit me wrong. Too available? Are you talking about a marriage or a Netflix subscription? Her face got that stubborn look. "You're not taking this seriously. I've put a lot of thought into this." "Oh, I'm taking it very seriously." I leaned back in my chair. "You just told me you want to treat our marriage like a business arrangement. So I'm wondering if I should start shopping around for better terms." What's that supposed to mean? Well, if you're going to run our relationship like some kind of limited service plan, maybe I should look into switching providers. Find someone offering unlimited packages. Her confident expression cracked a little. "That's not funny. I'm not trying to be funny. You just sat me down and told me you're rationing affection like we're in some kind of shortage. So I'm responding accordingly." She shifted in her seat. "You're being dramatic. This is about being mature and organized. Mature couples don't schedule intimacy like dental appointments. They don't put caps on showing love to each other." I stood up from the table. "But hey, if you want to run things like a business, I can adapt to that model." "What are you talking about?" Nothing. You've given me a lot to think about." I picked up my beer and headed toward the living room. "Thanks for the heads up about the new policy. I'll adjust my expectations accordingly." I could hear her chair scraping against the floor as she stood up. "Where are you going?" "To think about your proposal. Like any smart consumer would do when presented with new terms and conditions." "Stop talking like that." I turned around to face her. "Like what?" "Like someone who just got told their marriage comes with usage limits now." She was starting to look less confident. "I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd want what's best for us. And you decided what's best for us without asking me? You made a unilateral decision about our relationship and announced it to me like I'm supposed to just accept it? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You sat me down, told me you've been thinking about this, and then informed me of your decision. Not our decision. Your decision." I could see her processing this, realizing maybe she hadn't thought this through as well as she believed. "Look," I continued, "if you want to treat our marriage like a service agreement, I need to evaluate whether I'm getting good value for my investment. And right now, the terms you're offering don't look very competitive." Her mouth opened and closed without any words coming out. "So here's what's going to happen. You take some time to think about whether you really want to put limits on love in this house. And I'll take some time to think about whether I want to stay subscribed to a service that's cutting back on everything I signed up for." I headed upstairs, leaving her standing in the kitchen looking like someone who just realized they might have made a serious mistake. From upstairs, I heard her call out, "Honey, can we talk about this more?" "Sure," I called back down. "But I'm pretty busy this week. Maybe we can schedule something for Saturday evening." The next morning, she was already gone when I got up for work. No coffee made, no note, nothing. Just the way I left my coffee mug in the sink the night before, still sitting there. Over the next few days, I didn't change my routine dramatically, but I did change my approach. When she asked about my day, I gave her the basics and moved on. When she started talking about her coworkers or some drama with her sister, I listened politely but didn't engage like I used to. "You seem distant," she said Thursday evening while we were watching TV. "Just tired," I replied, not looking away from the screen. "Are you still upset about our conversation the other day?" I turned to look at her. "Upset? No, I'm adjusting." "Adjusting to what?" "To the new terms. You made it pretty clear that spontaneous affection isn't really part of the program anymore. So I'm recalibrating. She muted the TV. What does that mean? It means I'm not going to invest emotional energy in someone who sees our relationship as something that needs to be controlled and limited. That doesn't make sense from a practical standpoint. You're being ridiculous. Am I? You told me you want to schedule intimacy like a business meeting. So I'm treating this like a business relationship now. Professional, polite, but not particularly personal. I could see her getting frustrated. I didn't mean we couldn't be close in other ways. But you did mean that our physical relationship needed restrictions. And if you're comfortable putting limits on one part of our marriage, what's to stop you from deciding other parts need managing too? She didn't have an answer for that. Friday night, she made my favorite dinner. Steak, mashed potatoes, the works. She even lit candles. What's all this for? I asked when I walked into the dining room. Can I make a nice dinner for my husband? Of course you can. But timing is interesting, considering you just restructured our entire relationship a few days ago. She sat down across from me. I thought we could have a romantic evening. Romantic? But it's Friday. I thought romance was reserved for Saturday evenings now, between 7 and 9 p.m. or whatever schedule you had in mind. Her fork clinked against her plate. You know that's not what I meant. Actually, I don't know what you meant. You gave me very specific parameters. Once a week, more structured, more organized. Those were your words. I meant the physical part, not everything else. See, that's where you lost me. You can't separate physical intimacy from emotional intimacy and expect everything else to stay the same. When you put walls up in one area, it affects everything else. She was quiet for a long time, just moving her food around on her plate. I was trying to make things better between us, she finally said. Better how? We didn't have a problem before. At least, I didn't think we did. Well, she hesitated. Some of the girls at work were talking about their marriages, and they said that when men get too comfortable, they stop trying. They stop appreciating what they have. There it was. So this wasn't your idea. It was my decision, based on advice from people who aren't in our marriage. I set my fork down. You let your coworkers convince you that our relationship needed fixing, even though you couldn't identify any actual problems. They've been married longer than us. They have experience. And how are their marriages going? Are they happy? Do they actually enjoy being married to their husbands? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what I think happened. I continued. Some bitter women at your office told you that you were giving too much, that you needed to make me work harder for your attention. And instead of defending our relationship, you decided they might be right. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you valued their opinions more than our actual relationship. She started crying, which might have worked on me a week ago. But now I just felt tired. I didn't mean to hurt anything between us, she said through the tears. But you did. You took something that worked perfectly fine and decided it needed to be fixed based on the advice of people who don't even live here. I stood up from the table. Thanks for dinner. It was really good. Where are you going? Upstairs. I've got some thinking to do about whether I want to be in a marriage where outside influences get to make decisions about our relationship. I left her sitting at that romantic dinner she'd prepared, surrounded by candles that couldn't fix what she'd broken. Saturday morning, she was up early making breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, fresh orange juice. The whole production. You're up early, I said, grabbing a cup of coffee. I wanted to make you breakfast. We should talk. I sat down and looked at the spread. Okay, I'm listening. Maybe I was too hasty with the whole scheduling thing. Maybe twice a week would be better. I took a bite of pancakes. You're still missing the point. What point? The point is that you thought our marriage needed rationing in the first place. You're just negotiating the terms now. She sat down across from me with that determined look again. I'm trying to compromise. No, you're trying to find a number I'll accept. But the problem isn't the frequency. The problem is that you decided to treat intimacy like some kind of resource that needed to be managed. I was just trying to be practical. Practical about what? Were we having too much sex? Was I complaining that you were too affectionate? Did I ever make you feel like anything between us was a chore? She was quiet. Answer me. Did I ever give you any indication that I didn't appreciate you or that I was taking you for granted? No, she said quietly. So where did this idea come from that I needed to value you more? Another long pause. The girls at work said that men always get comfortable and stop putting in effort. They said I was probably making it too easy for you. And did you tell these women that your husband actually does put in effort? That he tells you he loves you every day, brings you coffee in bed on weekends, remembers anniversaries, asks about your day? She looked down at her plate. Or did you just nod along when they told you that all men are lazy and need to be trained like dogs? They were trying to help, were they? Because it sounds like they were projecting their own relationship problems onto ours. And instead of defending what we have, you decided maybe they were right. I leaned back in my chair. Tell me about these women. Are they happily married? Well, are they? Do they talk about loving their husbands? Or do they complain about them all the time? She was uncomfortable now. They mostly complain. So you took marriage advice from women who hate being married. They don't hate being married. Really? Because women who love their husbands don't sit around talking about how men need to be managed and controlled. Happy wives don't strategize about how to make their husbands work harder for basic affection. I could see this hitting home. These women poisoned your thinking about our marriage. And you let them. I thought they were just looking out for me. Looking out for you? Or trying to drag you down to their level of misery. She started crying again, but this time it seemed genuine instead of manipulative. I messed up, didn't I? Yeah, you did. You took something good and tried to fix it because some unhappy women convinced you it was broken. What do I do now? Well, first you stop taking marriage advice from people whose marriages are disasters. Second, you decide whether you actually want to be married to me or whether you want to be married to some theoretical version of me that jumps through hoops for your attention. I want to be married to you. The real me? The guy who shows you affection spontaneously because he actually loves you? Or the guy who has to earn scheduled intimacy by meeting whatever standards your office friends think are appropriate? The real you. Then you need to understand that the real me doesn't respond well to being managed. I'm not some project that needs improvement based on advice from women who can't stand their own husbands. She nodded, wiping her eyes. And here's something else you need to understand. When you let other people influence major decisions about our marriage, you're basically telling me that random coworkers have more say in our relationship than I do. I didn't think of it that way. Well, think of it that way now. Because that's exactly what happened. You gave a bunch of women who barely know me the power to change how our marriage works. I finished my coffee and stood up. Where are you going? To think. You've got some decisions to make about whose opinions matter more to you, mine or theirs. Yours, she said quickly. Then prove it. Stop discussing our private business with people who have agendas. Stop letting them convince you that our relationship needs fixing. And stop treating me like some kind of problem that needs to be solved. I headed toward the door. Thanks for breakfast. It was really good. But next time you want to make changes to our marriage, maybe run them by your actual husband first. Monday evening, I came home to find her on the phone in the kitchen. She quickly wrapped up the conversation when she saw me. Who was that? I asked, setting my lunch bag on the counter. Just work stuff, she said, but something in her tone felt off. Work stuff that you had to hang up quickly when I walked in. She hesitated. It was one of the girls from the office. She was checking on me. Checking on you about what? About us. About how things were going with the changes. I felt my jaw tighten. So you're still discussing our marriage with these people? She just called to see how I was doing. And what did you tell her? Another pause. That things were a little tense. A little tense. I nodded slowly. So now they know that your brilliant plan didn't work out the way you expected. She was trying to be supportive. Supportive how? Did she suggest doubling down on the scheduling idea? Maybe adding more restrictions? Her face told me I wasn't far off. What did she say? I pressed. She said that you were probably just testing me. That men do this when they feel threatened by boundaries. Testing you. Right. I rubbed my forehead. And what was her advice for handling this test? She said I should stick to my guns. That if I give in now, you'll never respect the boundaries. Boundaries. I repeated the word like it tasted bad. Is that what we're calling it now? She said that's what healthy relationships have. And did you tell her that we never had boundary problems before she and her friends got involved? She didn't answer. Did you tell her that your husband never disrespected you or made you feel unappreciated before you decided to solve problems that didn't exist? Still nothing. Or did you just agree that I was being difficult and needed to be managed better? I didn't say you were being difficult, but you didn't defend our relationship either, did you? The silence stretched between us. Here's what I think is happening, I said finally. These women have convinced you that marriage is some kind of power struggle, that you need to control me to keep me interested. And every time I push back against being controlled, they tell you it's proof that their theory is right. That's not. It is exactly that. They've turned you against your own husband based on their twisted view of what marriage should be. I walked to the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. What's really interesting is that they're so invested in your marriage failing. They don't want it to fail, don't they? Think about it. If you take their advice and it works, what does that say about their own marriages? It means their husbands really are the problems they claim they are. I took a sip of beer. But if you take their advice and it backfires, well, then you're just as miserable as they are. Either way, they win. She was starting to look uncomfortable. These women don't want you to have a happy marriage. They want you to have the same kind of marriage they have. One where intimacy is a weapon, where affection is currency, where spouses keep score and play games. You're being paranoid. Am I? Then explain why they're so interested in the intimate details of our relationship. Explain why they have such strong opinions about how often we should be together. Explain why they called to check if their advice was working. She couldn't. They're living vicariously through your marriage because theirs are disasters. And instead of fixing their own relationships, they're sabotaging yours. They're my friends. Friends don't torpedo your marriage for entertainment. Friends don't give you advice designed to create problems where none existed. I set my beer down and looked directly at her. You have a choice to make. You can keep listening to women who are miserable in their own marriages, or you can start working with your husband to build something good. I want to work with you. Then stop reporting back to them. Stop asking for their input. Stop treating our private life like it's a group project. But what if I need advice? Then ask me. Talk to me. We're supposed to be partners, remember? Not opponents in some game your coworkers invented. She was quiet for a long time. I think I've been really stupid, she said finally. Not stupid. Manipulated. There's a difference. What do I do now? You decide whether you want to be married to me or whether you want to be part of their little club of dissatisfied wives. I headed toward the stairs. But decide soon, because I'm not going to compete with a committee of women who hate their own husbands. Tuesday night, I was in my home office when she knocked on the door. Can I come in? Sure. She sat down in the chair across from my desk. I did something today. I looked up from my laptop. What did you do? I told the girls at work that I wouldn't be discussing my marriage with them anymore. I saved my document and closed the laptop. How did that go? Not well. They said I was making a mistake, that you were manipulating me into isolating myself from my support system. Interesting choice of words. Support system. That's what they called themselves. They said that's what friends do. They support each other through relationship problems. And what did you say to that? I said that maybe I shouldn't have relationship problems to begin with if I'm married to the right person. I felt something ease in my chest for the first time in days. They didn't like that very much, she continued. One of them said that all marriages have problems, and that I was being naive if I thought otherwise. What do you think? I think they were trying to convince me that being unhappy is normal, that fighting with your spouse is just part of marriage. She shifted in her chair. But we didn't fight before all this started. We didn't have problems before I listened to them. No, we didn't. They made me feel like something was wrong with us because we got along well. Like maybe you were just pretending to be happy, or I was being too easy. I leaned back in my chair. And now I think they were jealous. I think they couldn't stand that I actually enjoyed being married to you. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. There's something else, she said. I realized that I never actually wanted to limit our intimacy. I liked the way things were between us. Then why did you agree to change it? Because they made me feel stupid for being satisfied. Like I was some kind of pushover wife who didn't know any better. She started crying, but it was different this time. Not manipulative tears, just genuine regret. I let them make me ashamed of loving you the way I wanted to love you. I stood up and walked around the desk to sit on the edge, closer to her. They convinced me that spontaneous affection was a weakness, that if I didn't make you work for it, you'd stop appreciating it. And what do you think now? I think they're bitter women who can't stand seeing other people happy. And I think I almost destroyed my marriage listening to them. She looked up at me with red eyes. I'm so sorry. I don't know how I let them get in my head like that. Because they're good at what they do. Misery loves company, and they found a way to recruit you. Can we fix this? Can we go back to the way things were? I considered the question carefully. We can't go back exactly. Too much has been said. Too much has changed. Her face fell. But we can go forward. We can build something better, as long as you understand that our marriage is between us. Not us and your coworkers. Not us and whatever advice they want to give. Just us. I understand. Do you? Because the first time things get a little routine, or we hit a rough patch, are you going to start listening to outside voices again? No. I swear to you, no. This was your wake-up call. There won't be another one. If you let other people start making decisions about our marriage again, I won't stick around to see how it ends. I know. I get that now. I reached out and took her hand. I love you. I've always loved you. But I won't be managed, controlled, or treated like some kind of project that needs improvement. I don't want to manage you. I just want to be married to you. Then be married to me. Not to the version of me that your friends think you should want. The actual me. She squeezed my hand. The actual you is exactly who I fell in love with. Then let's remember that. Both of us. She stood up and moved closer. Can I hug you? You never have to ask permission to hug your husband. As she wrapped her arms around me, I felt like we were finally on the same side again. No more committees, I said quietly. No more committees, she agreed. Just us. Just us. 3 weeks later, things were getting back to normal. Not the old normal, but a better normal. She had completely cut off the toxic conversations at work, and I could see the difference immediately. How are things going with your coworkers? I asked over dinner one evening. Different. They're not happy with me, but I don't really care anymore. What do they say? They've mostly stopped including me in their conversations. When they do try to bring up relationship stuff, I just say that my marriage is private and change the subject. She took a bite of her salad. One of them cornered me in the break room yesterday and said I was being brainwashed by you. What did you tell her? I told her that maybe she should worry less about my marriage and more about why she's so miserable in her own. I smiled. How did that go over? Not well, but I realized something. These women have been complaining about the same relationship problems for years. They never actually try to fix anything. They just want to stay angry and drag everyone else down with them. And now you're not part of that anymore. Now I'm not part of that anymore, she agreed. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. I have a confession, she said eventually. What's that? I never actually wanted to schedule anything. Even when I suggested it, part of me knew it was wrong. Then why did you do it? Because they made me feel like I was being taken for granted, even though you never made me feel that way. They convinced me that if I didn't create artificial scarcity, you'd lose interest. And what do you think now? I think that's the stupidest relationship advice anyone could give. Why would I want to create problems where none existed? She reached across the table and took my hand. I think they were threatened by the fact that we actually enjoy each other, that we don't have to play games to keep things interesting. We don't need games. No, we don't. We never did. Later that evening, we were watching a movie when she brought up something else. I need to tell you something that might make you angry. I paused the movie. What is it? Before all this happened, they were pressuring me to go out with them more. Girls' nights, happy hours, weekend trips. They said I was too attached to you. Too attached to your own husband. They said it wasn't healthy to want to spend so much time together. That I needed more independence. I felt that familiar frustration building. So they were working on separating us long before the scheduling thing. Yeah, I think that was just the final step. First, convince me to spend less time with you. Then convince me to limit intimacy. Then what? Convince me you weren't worth the effort at all. Probably. I can see the whole plan now. And I can't believe I almost fell for it. She turned to face me completely. I want you to know that I would rather spend every evening with you than go out with women who hate their own marriages. Good. Because I'd rather spend every evening with you too, even when I'm being stupid and listening to terrible advice. Especially then. That's when you need me most. She laughed. I love that you didn't give up on us, even when I was actively trying to mess things up. I love that you figured out what was happening and chose us over them. It wasn't even a hard choice, once I saw it clearly. They were offering me drama, games, and artificial conflict. You were offering me an actual partnership. And what did you choose? I chose you. I choose you every day. She curled up against me on the couch. Can we make a pact? What kind of pact? If either of us is ever tempted to take relationship advice from people whose relationships are disasters, the other one has permission to point out how ridiculous that is. Deal. And no more outside influences making decisions about our marriage. Absolutely. She was quiet for a moment. I'm really sorry I put us through that. It's over now. And maybe it needed to happen so we could both understand how good we have it. We do have it good, don't we? Yeah, we do. We have something a lot of people would kill for, including some bitter women at my office. Including them. I restarted the movie, and she settled more comfortably against my side. Hey, she said softly. Yeah, no more quotas. On anything. Ever. No more quotas, I agreed. Just us, loving each other the way we want to, when we want to. The way it should be. As the movie played, I realized that we both learned something valuable. She learned that outside influences could poison even the best relationships if you let them. And I learned that sometimes you have to be willing to lose something to make someone realize what they're about to throw away. But most importantly, we both learned that what we had was worth fighting for, worth protecting from people who would rather see it fail than succeed. And that was a lesson worth keeping.